button already.
Here we go.
Let me talk to him. Let me talk to him.
Welcome to the Matt Schneidman Show.
That's a guy who is an intriguing one because he was an undrafted free agent.
Follow Matt on Twitter and Instagram at Matt Schneidman.
This is good stuff.
Or use the talk and text line at 1-414-799-1973.
If he can carry over what he's done in practice to games, then maybe we could start talking about, okay, Packers might have something here.
Now with Doug Russell, here's Matt Schneidman on the game.
Matt Schneidman Show, Wednesday, January 17th. Only a couple more days till a highly anticipated, playoff rematch. These two are playoff rivals now. The Packers have their regular season rivals in the Bears, the Vikings, the Lions. This is a playoff matchup that we've seen twice before in Matt LaFleur's 3 trips to the playoffs in his first 3 seasons with the Packers. Obviously, they didn't go last season. But this matchup is ripe with intriguing storylines. And what I want to touch on first is the Packers going up against Brock Purdy and Brock Purdy alone. Now, there's obviously the narrative that Brock Purdy's only good because of, his supporting cast, and don't get it twisted. His supporting cast is phenomenal with Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. But I believe it was Joe Barry today who said, when I look at an offense that's successful, I first look at the guy pulling the trigger. That offense doesn't work. You can call him a system QB, whatever you want. That offense doesn't work if Brock Purdy's not the quarterback. So he's doing a phenomenal job. There was a reason for most of the season he was in the MVP conversation up until they lost to the Ravens. And then it kind of swayed in Lamar Jackson's favor. But one particular thing I want to discuss about Brock Purdy is handling pressure. And I don't mean expectations. I mean literal grown men in your face. So Devontae Wyatt, Packers defensive lineman, was talking about the biggest key to getting Brock Purdy off his spot today. That was the question. Here's what Devontae Wyatt said. And this is part of a prior answer as well. Just get pressure in his face. He's short, so it's kind of hard for him to see over the offensive lineman and defensive lineman. Just get him off his spot. You've got to get pressure on him. When he's throwing the ball, it's just off rhythm. I watched it a lot on film. When D linemen just get pressure into him, he's always throwing off, or it's behind them, or it's overthrown, or short. There will be a lot of picks or stuff like that. So when you get pressure on him, it's a guarantee we'll get a turnover. So, Doug, let me see if you can guess who ranked first in the NFL this season in passer rating when pressured.
I'm going to go ahead because I'm just going to use some context and say it might have been Brock Purdy.
Yeah, did the Packers watch the right film this week? That was my question after hearing Devontae Wyatt say that. Now, maybe he's just trying to manifest the Packers pressuring him into turnovers. Because if he's just saying that as a matter of fact, it's completely wrong. And I tweeted that out, and 49ers Twitter has got a hold of it.
Oh, boy.
The Packers Twitter has gotten a hold of it.
Well, it's going to happen.
Neither side likes it.
Hey, that's going to happen when you say something like that. They call it bulletin board material, I guess, for a reason. And, with the advent of the internet and the advent of social media, that stuff can fly around faster than ever before.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to come back to bite Devontae Wyatt. He is a guy who's had a productive season, has had, I think 6.5 sacks, 5.5, 6.5 sacks, gotten a bunch of pressures. Hasn't gotten home probably as much as the Packers would like, but for his sake, if he cares about what is said about him online, he needs to get home and force some turnovers on Saturday night, because that is a bold quote to say. Someone brought up in my mentions that, Nick Bosa earlier this season, or it might have been last season, said something about Derek Carr, kind of trashing him. But it was after a game in which the 49ers won. Devontae Wyatt doing it before the game as a heavy underdog is a bold strategy. But as someone else mentioned, what do you got to lose? Maybe, it's just a way to try and, sprinkle things up, mix things up a little bit, maybe throw them off their game, get them thinking about what you're saying instead of what they actually need to do. Who knows? Maybe Devontae Wyatt's a genius and I'm just an idiot. But it doesn't seem very smart to come to that conclusion after watching film of Brock Purdy. Makes me question what film is Joe Barry showing them. But regardless, Brock Purdy's very good against pressure. That's been one of the hallmarks of the Packers' recent defensive resurgence, is getting home. They did that really well against the Vikings and Bears, less so against the Cowboys. I believe PFF had the Vikings allowing 24 pressures, the Bears allowing 17, Cowboys allowing 11. But the Packers still made impact plays, 4 sacks against the Cowboys, 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick six. And it's part of the reason why I have a story coming tomorrow morning. Something tells me Joe Barry might be earning his job back. Now, if Devontae Wyatt's words become bulletin board material in the 49ers locker room, 49ers, as good as they are, they don't need extra motivation. So I'm saying this all as just like a radio talking point. But my point is they don't need to give the 49ers any extra motivation going into this game.
They really don't. I mean, it always baffles me when underdogs do that, because I always wonder what the motivation is. Is it because of exactly what you're saying? I mean, look, there's this prevailing notion, this prevailing feeling that the Packers are playing with house money already. They upset the Dallas Cowboys. They were the last team to get into the playoffs. They're playing free. They're playing loose. The future is incredibly bright. So let's just throw a couple of haymakers out there and see what happens. Maybe it'll motivate the guys. And if it blows up in our face, well, so what? I mean, it's the stakes are high, but they're not, it's not devastating if they lose. I mean, like when the Cowboys lost last week, now we're on Mike McCarthy death watch, or Nick Sirianni death watch in Philadelphia after they got bounced from the playoffs. That obviously wasn't going to happen in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur, whether they made the playoffs or not. So, I mean, I see, I kind of get where he's coming from. Maybe he just wants to fire up the guys, like you said, and that's possible. But yeah, this is a 49ers team that doesn't need a whole lot to motivate them. They're a pretty darn good team on both sides of the ball. They got a lot of weapons. It's a very formidable team.
This is really funny. I just checked my Instagram DMs, just clicking through my phone, and there's one from a guy named Dylan Blair. I don't follow him. He does not follow me. He has 574 followers, 457 posts. His @ is Big Dill, BIGDYLY. This is his message. I'm assuming this is in reference to the Devontae Wyatt quote we are talking about. You look like a recovering heroin addict. Can't wait for you to relapse after Purdy slices your secondary and puts you out of a job. Does he think I play DB for the Does he think I'm Joe Barry?
I don't know. Does he not remember you from your time in San Francisco on the other side of the bay?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. That's funny.
Do I look like a recovering heroin addict?
I don't know if I'd say that.
I've
It's
never
going a little bit far. I mean, you're thin. You're going to the gym, so you're starting to bulk up a little bit. But
wait, are you actually giving credence to what this guy said?
No, I'm saying that you don't, because you don't have the hollow eyes or anything like that. You're just skinny. I think that's probably the only thing that he's trying to glom onto.
Well,
I wouldn't say that he thinks that you're a Doritos addict or anything like that, but
no.
I think that's probably where he's coming from. Do I think you look like a heroin addict? No, Matt, I don't think you look like a heroin addict.
I've never
cried out loud.
I never imagined I'd have to, say that on this air, but I haven't. Don't plan on it either,
right,
Dylan Blair. I'm going to tweet that because that's hilarious.
That is funny.
But yeah, I think on the Joe Barry topic, to kind of tease this story I have coming out tomorrow, Matt LaFleur, I don't know for a fact that he was set on firing Joe Barry after that 3-game stretch of Giants, Buccaneers, Panthers. But I could just sense in the way Joe Barry spoke at the podium, the way he presented himself to us, that he was defeated. He was disheartened, as he should have been. He admitted to us that his back was up against the wall. You could hear it in his voice that he could sense that the fate that awaited him in the near future was pretty much decided, it seemed.
Felt like it.
But then the last 3 games, he was leveling up. Like I said yesterday, I think I said this on the Brick and the Stick, not this show, how it's like when you're playing Pokemon, for anyone that did. You start with the smaller tasks, the smaller Pokemon, then you slowly work your way up to the higher battles and the higher opponents. You beat the Vikings with Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins. Then you beat the Bears with Justin Fields. Then you beat the Cowboys. Now you're on to the 49ers, the final boss. If Joe Barry guides his defense to a performance like any of the three that we've seen in the last couple of weeks, I think he's solidified as the DC here next year. Has Matt LaFleur already decided that he's moving on? Perhaps. Is it still in limbo? Perhaps. We don't know what LaFleur's thinking. Could he have been set on bringing him back all along? Perhaps. We don't know. But just the read on the situation and seeing Joe Barry walk up to that podium today with a smile on his face, a little more pep in his step. He's cracking jokes about not knowing what day it is when he gets into the grind of an NFL season. He wouldn't say it because he did say today that he's the same guy every day. But I saw a different Joe Barry. He's feeling himself a little bit, which might be a reflection of how he feels about his job status. My point is, one more game on Saturday night, like the ones they've had the past couple weeks, this guy's back. He might already be.
I think Matt LaFleur is looking for a reason to bring him back. And that's just kind of the sense that I get just listening to LaFleur on Monday when he was asked about the defense, when he was asked about Joe Barry. He said, look, if anybody could turn it around, I think Joe Barry could. And he was effusive in his praise of Joe Barry on Monday. I think he may already be back. It's just a sense that I get. Like you said, I don't know what LaFleur is thinking any more than anybody else does, but we know that Joe Barry's his friend, but that shouldn't cloud your judgment as a head coach. As we talked about when the Packers were going through, they're kind of down in the valley of their defense after the Carolina game, a game that they only won by 3 points and gave up 30 points to the worst team in the NFL on. I just got the sense that he was looking for something, LaFleur. I just got the sense that he wanted to bring him back and didn't want to be forced into making a decision that he didn't want to have to make. And this team has already exceeded anybody's expectations at the beginning of the season or even when the playoffs started of how far they could go. And, there are a few things that are working in the Packers' favor. One of the things is the 49ers haven't played a meaningful game in a few weeks. The Packers have been playing for their playoff lives for the last 3 weeks. They've had to, or 4 weeks even, they've had to win, their last 3 games to get in. And that has sometimes been beneficial in the divisional round. Top seeds don't always get through in the divisional round. The Packers didn't in 2011. And as we all know, as I've been talking about in 2010, they were the 6th seed. So just using recent history as a guide, I mean, there are some things that you can kind of hang your hat on and say, yeah, I feel good about this game specifically. But as far as Joe Barry, yeah, if there's a pep in his step, I think there's a reason for that. And maybe that's why this team has been playing a little bit more loose, because there isn't that pressure that was on. They weren't as puckered, to use your word, on Mike McCarthy last week as they had been the last couple.
A little puckered up.
A little puckered.
I like some of the responses I'm getting from this. Someone on Twitter, beat writers are always first to go after a playoff loss. Sorry, Matt. I know that's a joke. I've covered 3 of them, and I'm still here. There was someone else who then DM'd me on Instagram, a different person, and said, you got to be a better defensive coordinator, man. If Purdy shreds our defense, you're done.
You, Matt Schneidman?
Yeah, it was a joke.
Okay. Got it.
I hope Dylan Blair's happy with himself. I just think that stuff's funny. I mean, how much of a low life do you have to be to message someone that? First of all, how dumb do you have to be to think that I'm the person you message that?
Well, there are a lot of dumb people out there.
A lot.
Too many.
I enjoy it. It doesn't get to me. I just think it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's, if there's malice that missed, that's fine.
Well, it certainly seems like there's malice, because he said he hopes I have a heroin relapse. Imagine there's some malice intended with that statement.
There's probably not a lot of joking with that.
No, I don't think so. Something that'll help Joe Barry's defense, the actual Joe Barry, not me. Jair Alexander was a DNP for today's walkthrough. They had quote unquote practice today, sneakers, indoors. We only watched stretch. Jair was one of 2 players not participating, along with A.J. Dillon. Well, Kingsley and Akbari wasn't either, but he's out for the year, so I don't really count him, with all due respect, toward the 53, even though he's still on the 53, since we already know he's not playing this weekend. Jair Alexander did not participate, DNP on the practice report estimation. But Joe Barry said Jair is in a better spot at this point this week than he was last week, and he played last week. So by the transitive property, that means he's playing this week. Now, we obviously don't know how he progresses throughout the week, whether it's a linear progression like maybe it was last week. Got to go through all the treatment again. We'll see how his left ankle responds after he re-aggravated the injury during Sunday's game in Arlington. But the fact that Joe Barry and Matt LaFleur spoke as, I don't want to say optimistically, because I don't know if it was entirely optimistic, but it wasn't pessimistic entirely. They seemed to give Jair a chance. And Joe Barry said today, when he sprained his ankle during practice last week, during a walkthrough in that freak accident, which is what Matt LaFleur called it, Joe Barry didn't think Jair was going to play. So if he's giving him a chance at this point this week, that seems like he's got a good shot.
Certainly want him back, of course. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can, as we kind of talked about yesterday, I'm not sure how much you take into account, just the jog throughs, because they're not practicing at full strength or anything like that. But I mean, this whole week is about trying to keep guys fresh after a long football season that they've already gone through, the grind of it all. I mean, you're just trying to save everybody for not even the banged up players, but just kind of trying to save everybody for when it really matters. And that's going to be on Saturday night. So yeah, obviously the hope is that you get all these guys in. Having Jair Alexander in would be awesome. But I'm not, if somebody is a DNP, for a walkthrough, I guess I'm just waiting for the end of the week, I guess, to see what the training staff really thinks.
Yeah, we'll see. After the break, we'll dive more into this Packers 49ers matchup. We heard from a lot of guys in the locker room today. We'll dive into what they said, what's notable, what's not. More from the injury report estimation for both sides. Take a short break, get a drink, take a leak. Stick with us right here on the Matt Schneidman Show on the Game.
We refer to that as yak, yards after catch.
Turn it up.
How am I supposed to lead in with that? I didn't know you were playing that. Like, I knew he said it today. That was Joe Barry, by the way. Joe Barry does this, and we kind of joke about it. First of all, I want to say first that Joe Barry's super nice guy, always been good to me and others, but he does this thing where he almost mansplains football. And that was one of the instances where he felt the need to explain what yak meant to a room full of NFL writers.
Yards after catch.
Yards after catch, yes. Could be yards after contact.
Could be yards after contact, but
we refer to that as yak, yards after catch.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think he did it condescendingly. I don't think he does it with the intention to talk down on us. I just think it's kind of how he talks. So we don't take offense. I just thought it was hilarious that he spelled that out for us. And I was not the one to send you that audio. It was someone else to send you that audio. I did not know after that presser happened that it was going to be used on the show, but I do think it's funny.
It is. So thanks, Mikey.
Yeah, Mike Clemens, shout out. Anyway, I was going to get into an ad read, so I'll do that now. Iron Jock says, let's go. Now through January 21st, when you buy $50 or more of Iron Jock Performance Apparel, take 25% off everything in your cart with promo code FITNESS25. That's FITNESS25. And you'll also get a free Iron Jock script baseball cap. It'll automatically be added in your cart, and you get to choose which version of the cap you want. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com. Now, I said we get into the injury reports. The 49ers practiced again, like an actual practice. The Packers held a walkthrough.
They haven't played in a couple of weeks, though, too. So I think they probably they haven't played in a couple of weeks, though. So They probably need to get after it a little bit more.
Exactly. A lot of people in my Twitter mentioned saying, "Oh, bold strategy by the Packers not practicing." Well, they just came off a game. Some of the 49ers starters haven't played in 3 weeks. So They have to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we got in terms of injury report estimation for the Packers. Jair Alexander DNP, which I explained before the break if you were not with us, that Joe Barry said that Jair is further ahead in terms of his ankle situation this week than he was at this point last week. He played last week. Granted, it's a shorter week because the game's on Saturday as opposed to Sunday last week. So we'll see where he is, throughout the week. Kenny Clark limited, AJ Dillon DNP, Kingsley and Agbari DNP. And just quickly on Kingsley and Agbari, you might think, and certainly when the injury first happened, I thought, yeah, you hate to see a guy get hurt like that. And then your mind goes to, how are the Packers going to compensate? And you think, okay, it's a reserve edge rusher, your third, fourth edge rusher. Packers won't have too much of trouble filling his spot. If you listen to Matt LaFleur, Rich Bisaccia, Joe Barry talk about this guy, it's a big loss. He played 41% of the defensive snaps this season, 45% of the special team snaps. I want to read to you what Rich Bisaccia said about Agbari today. It's remarkable when you ask about maybe some lesser heralded guys that don't get talked about, the impact they can truly have on a locker room, on a team. Rich Bisaccia on Kingsley and Agbari, the second-year edge rusher out of South Carolina, who reportedly tore his ACL and is done for the season. That's been a devastating loss on a personal level, too, just because of the relationship with him and how hard he trained this offseason, and he came in supreme physical condition. He played 3 phases for us and had a tremendous play on punt rush last week and safe, and had a tremendous play for us on punt team on an overload front. That's a big loss, and his personality in our meetings, his personality in the walkthroughs, and the physical style he was playing with. We'll be excited about getting him back healthy next year, but it's a big loss for us right now. Give me a second to find what Matt LaFleur said about Kingsley and Agbari on Monday, but it was similar. It's a huge loss. He said, I have not talked to, this was on Monday. He didn't have, the exact information in terms of the medical stuff. Matt LaFleur, I tell you what, man, I can't say enough great things about him. And to see the growth from last year to this year, his contributions not only on defense, but on teams as well. And I just love his play style, his relentless pursuit of the football. There's a number of examples in that game against the Cowboys of just the physicality that we preach, the hustle to the ball, but I'm confident he's got a lot of support here. He's made some nice plays this year. May not be a Rashawn Gary or a Preston Smith, but at a position where the starters don't play 100% of the snaps like they do at cornerback, for example, you need reserve guys. So that means more for Gary, more for Smith, more for Lucas Van Ness. Brenton Cox is going to be active on Saturday when he's been active for what, 1-2 games this year?
Yeah, maybe.
There's some follow-up for this. It may not be the main storyline, but it's certainly a storyline.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's nice to see Lucas Van Ness as the season has gone on. I think he's gotten better and better. And, you hear Wayne and Larry call his name a lot more. Gets home a couple of times, or has in the last couple of weeks. And sometimes as a rookie, it can go either way. I really like the progress that I've seen from him. And I know that the coaching staff has talked about it a little bit as well, just from when he started, because he wasn't a starter when he was in college at Iowa. That's just the way that Kirk Ferentz uses his players. And then he comes in to Green Bay. There were a lot of questions. Did the Packers reach for him? I don't think they did. He's turned out to be a pretty valuable member of the Packers defense and somebody who can get to the passer on a fairly regular basis when he's in there. And without an Agberry in there, it's just going to, I think, put a little bit more on his plate. And I think that he's ready for it. So you don't want to lose a guy like JJ, but I think they've got a little bit of depth there, maybe more than they had thought at the beginning of the season.
Well, we're about to find out, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Rashawn Gary limited, getting back into the injury report. Elton Jenkins, Isaiah McDuffie, and Preston Smith, all estimated DNPs yesterday, were all limited today. So that's good news for Elton Jenkins, McDuffie, and Preston Smith to be back on the practice field. Aaron Jones, Keyshawn Nixon, Jonathan Owens, Jaden Reed, Darnell Savage, Christian Watson, all limited, then Quay Walker full again. For the 49ers, not much of note. DNP, Cleveland Ferrell, he ain't playing. Dre Greenlaw was upgraded from a DNP to limited. I believe I said on yesterday's show that he was out for the season with an Achilles injury. That doesn't seem to be the case because he's limited in practice today. Shows you what I know about the Dre Greenlaw situation. I had just thought that I read somewhere that he, tore his Achilles. Not true. So my apologies. Logan Ryan upgraded from a DNP to a limited participant, and then Trent Williams taken off the injury report. He did not practice yesterday because of vet rest. So 49ers very healthy. Packers not as healthy, but still relatively healthy considering everything they've been through. It'll be interesting to see if A.J. Dillon misses another game. This seems like a pretty significant neck injury. If a stinger, which other people have suffered, stingers come in various shapes and sizes, because Josh Myers suffered a stinger against the Vikings, then was at practice a couple days later. Isaiah McDuffie suffered a stinger and I believe he missed one game. And then A.J. Dillon suffers a stinger against the Vikings. And this could be his third straight game missed with the neck injury. So you got to have concern for his health, obviously. And Emmanuel Wilson doesn't exactly provide what A.J. Dillon provides. And there was one instance, maybe more than one instance, where you thought, okay, Aaron Jones makes that play and Emmanuel Wilson did not. That's no surprise. Aaron Jones, one of the best running backs in the league. Emmanuel Wilson, a rookie out of a D2 school. But, people said after that Jordan Love throw behind Jaden Reed over the middle that Emmanuel Wilson kind of held on to the ball too long on the play action fake. And then there was one where it looked like the left edge was wide open for a big gain, and Emmanuel Wilson just couldn't get out there quick enough. So it'll be him again as the second running back up for carries if A.J. Dillon can't go. But it looks like Aaron Jones is primed for another big workload this week. And John Kuhn, I believe, brought up the stat on Brick and the Stick, and I'm sure he brought it up on his show this week, that Aaron Jones, once in his career, had at least 20 carries in 3 straight games. And I believe that was the final 2 games of last season in the playoffs. Or no, they didn't make the playoffs. So I think it was the final 2 games of the 21 season and then the playoff game against the 49ers. Might be wrong. If I'm wrong, then John's wrong. He's carried at least 20 times in 4 straight games. Another workhorse day for Aaron Jones coming up, which isn't a bad thing. And this is why I say I don't always go by rushing yards allowed per game. 49ers were 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game. But as David Lombardi, one of the 2 who covers the 49ers for us, pointed out in a story this week, 49ers like 26th in defensive EPA per rush. So there will be some opportunities there for Aaron Jones. Can he keep up his hot streak? That would be a big factor if the Packers are going to keep this game close.
Oh, without a doubt. And, with Aaron Jones, he wants to be thought of as a workhorse. And the thing about pass protection, that was one of the things that, if you want to go all the way back to trying to pick the initial 53-man roster about Emmanuel Wilson, that was a deficiency. We all saw him in the preseason get the opportunity to carry the rock, and he did a pretty good job with it, showed some burst, showed some ability. But, when you ask Matt LaFleur back in the preseason, as for what other skill sets that he might have, well, he can't play on special teams, or at least he couldn't then. And his pass protection was a little bit suspect as well. So with more experience, I think, in the NFL, I think and hope that he'll, for his sake, get better at it. But, I don't have any concerns right now. Aaron Jones seems like he's healthy. That's the most important thing because he's missed so much time. First, it was with the hamstring injury. But, you get to be 29 years old as a running back in the NFL, and certain things start to wear on you a little bit, but he looks like he's 5 years younger than he is right now. He's playing at an amazing clip. I know it was against the Cowboys. I know historically he plays very well against the Cowboys. But yeah, I mean, the stakes are high for him. The stakes are high for every veteran on this team. And there aren't that many, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that, are kind of seeing the finish line. Not this year, maybe not next year for Aaron Jones, but he's not going to be in the NFL in 5 years, whereas most of the other guys on offense will be, and they'll have more opportunities, more, cracks at it, if you will. So it's an important game for him. And yeah, I don't have any, as long as he's healthy, I don't have any concerns with him carrying the rock because he's one of the playmakers. He's one of the workhorses on this team. So yeah, I just hope he stays healthy. That's it.
Without a doubt. Now, I thought it was interesting, and I know one of my fellow writers is writing this story, so I don't want to steal too much shine from him, but a big storyline entering this season was, are we going to see Matt LaFleur's true offense? Because we'll never know on the outside how much Aaron changed at the line of scrimmage, how much was actually Matt's call. Does Aaron have more freedom than Jordan, whatever? Nick Bosa came out this week and said, Jordan looks like he's running the offense that's called, whereas with Aaron, he kind of just did his own thing sometimes. Now, Aaron Rodgers earned the right to do that. Jordan Love maybe not as comfortable doing that. I'm going to try and pull up this Adam Stenavich quote, but I remember Mark Murphy getting to the podium after the shareholders meeting in late July.
I love Murph because he's just, there's no filter.
Just get him in front of a microphone. Absolutely.
He's gold. I'm going to miss him when he's gone in a couple of years.
And he said, I think we're going to start to see Matt's true offense. So if you want to know what's really going on inside the walls of 1265 Lombardi Ave, just put Mark Murphy in front of a microphone. Here's what Adam Stenavich said when asked by Jason Wilde about, this notion that Aaron Rodgers kind of went off script and Jordan is just running what he's supposed to run. Adam Stenavich said, I think it's a peeled back version for sure, just because of all the new people. I think that plays a lot into it. Not necessarily Aaron versus Jordan, but our rosters in general with the inexperience that we have. Under center, play pass, trying to lean on the run game as much as possible, where when you have Aaron, you kind of tend to throw it more. So it's stuff like that where you just go off the personnel and do what you think is best. Now, he said, it's not necessarily bad if Aaron changes it because he's earned the right to do some of that. But here's an interesting thing that Stenavich said. And I like when Adam Stenavich takes the podium because he keeps it real more so than any other assistant coach that we talk to. The question was basically about Nick Bosa saying the Packers were benefiting from running the offense the way it's called, rather than Rodgers kind of going off script. And Stenavich said there definitely is a value to that because half the time when you get done with a drive, sometimes in past years, you'd just be trying to figure out what play was called. Now we know what's supposed to happen. But with Aaron, he would see stuff and make checks and all that you didn't know exactly what was happening at the time. But with this, we're all kind of on the same page and going, not to say the other way wasn't good because we had great results with it, but this is nice because at least you can kind of build an offense around it, build plays off plays as the game progresses. So don't get it twisted. That's not a shot at Aaron Rodgers. It's just a fact of the matter statement. And I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah. Well, Aaron's sensitive, so he'll probably construe it as a shot, which I hope he doesn't, but he might. Because Aaron, he would tamp that down as well. I mean, when, at least publicly, when, he was quizzed about how much he's able to check out and how much he's not, and things like that. Like I said, I think we'll probably never know the full extent of how much he did check out actually, and how many plays that Matt LaFleur actually called from the sidelines actually made it onto the field. But like Adam Stanovich said, they had amazing results with it, and at some point, Jordan Love is going to earn that right. But you also see the success that he's had. I mean, you made the statement of Brock Purdy earlier that one of the, I don't know if it's a criticism. I think that the term system quarterback is unnecessarily pejorative. If you're running a system that fits your skill set, yeah, I mean, okay, be a system quarterback all you want. It could also put you in the Hall of Fame, for crying out loud, if you run the right system, if you run a system that fits you. So oftentimes you get quarterback and coach, and it doesn't have to be the head coach, but oftentimes, at least in Green Bay history, it has been. But you have to have, that play caller and the quarterback just being on the same page. And oftentimes that can lead to amazing success. And oftentimes you can have just the wrong mix and otherwise a successful quarterback with the wrong coaching. It can go the other way too. So I think the Packers and Packers fans have been very fortunate to have, that coach quarterback symbiosis, whether it was Holmgren and Favre, whether it was McCarthy and Rodgers. And now you're hoping to see it in LaFleur and Love.
I'm responding to this Instagram guy. I'm going to see if I can get him to apologize. Not that I need an apology, but maybe just put someone in their place for once. Anyway, I'm going to do that during the break. After this break, maybe I'll get a response from old Dylan Blair. Maybe not.
He found you once. He'll find you again.
Because I have a friend who messaged him on Instagram trying to have my back, not that I need it. And Dylan Blair has already responded to that friend, so I'm sure I'll get one. Anyway, we'll talk about things that actually matter, like this football game. Dive into more of what we heard out of the locker room and at the podium today. Stick with us right here on the Matt Schneidman Show on the Game.
Let's just drive until it's faded, girl. Let's lose it tonight. Cause when you do that thing right there, flipping your hair, baby, I swear, I don't think you know what you're doing to me. You got my heart keeps skipping a beat. You're not close enough, so that space between you and me, let's lose it. The way you're
Matt Schneidman Show right here on the game. I think we've reached a truce. Before I was even able to send this man a message, I guess he saw my tweet or my story on Instagram, and he said, "Well played, LOL." Here's what I said to him. I said, because his profile picture is him and who I'm assuming is his significant other, his lady. I said, "Would your lady be proud of you wishing potential death upon a beat writer?" And then in parentheses, I said, "and radio host, may I add, Match Nomin Show 6 to 7 p.m. Central on the game." That isn't a Packer fan. You do know I included in that tweet that Brock led the league in passer rating under pressure, right? I was pointing out how wrong the Packers player is. Now, and he said, "I never said OD." He's saying, well, hypothetically, I never said I wanted you to overdose. Just like I said, well played, getting blasted in the DMs, you win. And I want to clarify. I'm a human. I see what people say about me. I don't respond to 99% of them. I just like to have some fun sometimes. Sure. None of this actually angers me. I have a radio show now, and I can use stuff like this as content. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, life is content in radio.
So I'm saying, oh, okay, as long as you just want me to relapse and not overdose, then we're good here.
Right.
It's so kind of him.
Sometimes sports fans get worked up into a frenzy over guys that wear the right colored shirts. That's okay. I get it. You become a fan of a team and, the other team is the enemy. Not your opponent, the enemy. It's all good. Hope he's listening, by the way. What's his name? Dylan?
Dylan? You want to call in? Should I try and get him to call into the show?
If he wants. I mean, he's got the number. I mean, he should have the number. 414-799-1973. Yeah, he can call in if he wants.
I'm going to ask him.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
414-799
1973.
1973. And that goes for anybody who wants to call in. I just messaged him.
Yeah, that's the number that Mo in Illinois uses all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, forget that guy. Christian Watson, as we all know, was at least seemingly pretty limited in his return from the hamstring injury. Only had one target. But Jordan Love brought up a play in the game. I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but Christian Watson was downfield and occupied three guys. There's a screenshot. I've mentioned it. It's going around, but Jordan Love now mentioned it as well. Three guys surrounding Christian Watson. Romeo Doubs wide open underneath. Just the presence of him is important. I've been saying it all along. Maybe I do know ball, unlike what Dylan Blair thinks. Christian Watson said, "I'm feeling really good right now, today." Challenge of 2 targets or 12 targets. He said, we know what the game plan is going into it, so we know what to expect going in. At the end of the day, when we're on a roll and we're doing what we were doing in the game, I don't think anyone has any complaints. We're just excited to keep on going and doing well. Then he was asked about that play where he was triple teamed on one of Dobbs' catches, and Christian Watson said, that feels good. That's exactly what we wanted to do. We schemed those types of things to do that. To see Rome have the day, and for me to be a part of it, it was exciting. It's exactly the answer you want from that guy.
100%. And, who was the player that we were talking about the entire week leading up to the game, at least as far as the receivers? We're talking about Jaden Reed. He was targeted 3 times, didn't catch a ball, and the team still won. And Romeo Doubs, who was, famously coughing up blood, he goes off for 6 catches, 151 yards and a score. So the depth on this team, you need more than just a couple of playmakers. And that maybe that's the way the game has evolved over the years. But if you have like this whole contingent of first and second year pass catchers that are all getting good at the same time, it's going to be a different guy every week. Maybe this week it'll be Christian Watson. Maybe it won't be. Maybe they'll go back and it'll be Jaden Reed's number again, or Bo Melton, who had a come up a couple of weeks ago. I mean, if it's not one guy, it's another. If it's not that guy, it's somebody else. If it's not this guy, it's that guy. And that's how this team is going to win. And the results, at least over the last month and a half, 2 months, have been pretty amazing. It's been fun to watch. And I'm sure if you're Brian Gutekunst, this is what you talked about in the preseason when everybody was asking you, are you going to bring in a veteran receiver to help guide these young players? It's like, no, don't need it. Probably couldn't afford it. And there probably wasn't anybody out there who was going to actually give this team any kind of positive contribution on the field, but maybe could help teach some of the younger players what he knew in the meeting room. But It's an overwhelming feeling they didn't need it. And what we're seeing right now is he was right. They didn't need it because they're all playing complementary football of themselves in that same room. Because again, if it's not this guy, it's that guy. If it's not that guy, it's another guy.
This just in from Adam Schefter. The Dallas Cowboys are not making a head coaching change, and Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy is returning for the 2024 season.
Okay. I like to see that. I like Mac.
I never covered him, but from everything I've heard from those who have, just a good guy.
Yeah. Really, really good guy. I mean, good family man. Will make Green Bay his home whenever he is done coaching. If the Packers can't win, and obviously they eliminated the Cowboys, I wouldn't hate seeing the Cowboys win with Mike McCarthy or wherever he would wind up coaching. I just think that he's just one of those rare people that, you kind of make fun of a little bit. He's like Green Bay's uncle almost. He's like your fun uncle, though. Sometimes he's gruff. Sometimes he's positive and pad level and all this other stuff. At the end of the day, when the cameras are off and the tape recorders are off and he's just talking and BSing, he's just a dude. He's just a good guy. And it's, like I said, good family man, nice family.
Can I share a quick Mike McCarthy story?
Please, absolutely.
So I obviously never covered him. I started covering the Packers in July 2019. So I was at the NFL owners meetings this past March, I believe it was. And Rob Domofsky, obviously who everyone knows, and I believe Wes Hodkiewicz was there. We're getting lunch at a kind of, restaurant-ish thing inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where the owners' meetings were. So we were sitting at a table near the entrance. And if you've never been to an NFL owners' meetings, which I don't know why listeners of this show would have been, at every corner, there's a GM, a head coach. Like, I sat down at lunch with Jason Wallers, who's the Packers head of PR, and Rob Domofsky. And at the table next to us were Stan and Josh Kroenke, the owners of the LA Rams, who also own Arsenal, the Denver Nuggets. So it's like just regular Joe Schmoes like me can be next to these famous people because they're the owners' meetings. The owners, GMs, coaches, all of them are there. So you could, at one turn, run into Mark Murphy, the next turn, run into Mike Tomlin, and then the next turn, run into Mike McCarthy. And that's exactly what happened. We were sitting in this restaurant. Rob and I and Wes were waiting for a table, and Mike McCarthy walks by. And I go to Rob. I said, Rob, look who's over there. Because Rob and Mike get along well. They worked together for a long time. Not worked together, but Rob covered him for a long time. And Rob looks over to Mike, says, Mike, McCarthy comes over. And you want to know the first thing Mike McCarthy asked Rob?
How's your family?
He said, how about those Redbirds?
Oh, okay.
After Rob's son, Hogan, went 30-0 and won the state championship. So to your point of he's just a good, decent guy, first thing he wanted to talk about was how good Rob's son's basketball team did. Rob pulled up pictures and videos on his phone of it. Mike was invested. I don't know where he had to go, but Mike was buried in Rob's phone looking at whatever Rob was showing him about the De Pere boys varsity basketball team.
That's awesome. And not surprising at all. A quick Mike McCarthy story that I have is I was working in the media auditorium hours after a game. I don't know why I was still down there, but it was like me and two other people. And I think Mike had thought that everybody had gone by then because he brought, he brought his youngest daughter in, who was probably, 3 or 4 at the time. And she just wanted to see where daddy talked to the television. So he brought her in and just was holding her hand in one hand and had her little pink, bag in her other hand, like her, My Little Pony bag in this NFL football coach's hand in the other way. And he was surprised to see us in there. And it was just the cutest little interaction because he got to see Mike as a dad. He wasn't a football coach. I mean, he was, but he was just a dad in there, just, showing his little girl where daddy talked to the television. So it was just a neat little interaction that we had, and it really humanized him. But yeah, I'm glad to see that he's sticking around in Dallas. I understand there's a lot of pressure down there. It's a pressurized environment being an NFL head coach, and especially in that environment down there. But yeah, I'll always be a Mike McCarthy fan, without a doubt.
Yeah, you get to know some of these guys behind the scenes. There's a Matt LaFleur story I have that I'll save for a day long from now that I think is a phenomenal story, but I'm not sure I can tell it right now. Even if I could, I don't think I would because it's not very topical right now since the Packers and 49ers are about to play. But the point is that you get to know these guys beyond football. You know, I was once in the Green Bay airport in July going to my best friend's wedding in New Jersey. Packed airport in Green Bay at 5 a.m. Never seen it this packed. And this was summer of 2022. Aaron Jones walks by me with his mom and his son, putting them on a plane to send them back wherever they were going. It's 5 a.m. He has all the right to just go home, whatever. I didn't know Aaron Jones knew my name at the time, but Aaron Jones stopped me. Hey, Matt, how you doing? You know, where are you headed? How's your day going? I was like, well, it's 5 a.m. So, but, you know, I haven't done much with my day yet, but I'm going to, you know, my best friend's wedding. But he just stopped me, had a nice chat at 5 a.m. Dr. Robert Anderson stopped by and said hello to Aaron Jones. So that's part of what you get in Green Bay.
Yep.
That's why I enjoy living here.
Without a doubt. Aaron Jones and my wife both went to UTEP, and she was an athlete at UTEP as well. So they bonded over that. They know a lot of the same people. So I finally got to introduce my wife to Aaron Jones at his gala last year, which was, they had a neat interaction over that. So he's one of the good ones too.
Oh, without a doubt. Absolutely. Anyway, I'm going to get back to DMing this guy just for the content and then tweet it out. Tomorrow, football feast. Doug on the ones and twos, myself, Drew and KB, Billy Schmidt, Hunter Baumgart, Packers 49ers. Let's ride. For Doug, I'm Matt. We appreciate everyone for listening. Talk to you soon.